Ladies and gentlemen, just 4 days ago, NPR published a story that they called a bombshell expose meant to expose the Department of Government Efficiency. Their claim? That the Department of Government Efficiency, yes, the very department led by Elon Musk, is supposedly giving Russian hackers access to American user data. But, ladies and gentlemen, as it would turn out, the entire story has now been verifiably proven to be completely bogus. And so today, we're going to break down the entire situation. You see, everything goes back to a so-called whistleblower behind the claim, a man named Daniel Baroulis, who worked at the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, and as it turns out, he has a very long, very public history of anti-Trump and anti-Musk commentary. So just to make this very clear, a known political partisan who works at the NLRB suddenly claimed that Trump's Department of Government Efficiency is working with Russian hackers. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm personally going to need to see some proof. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's the problem. There is no proof. In fact, senior-ranking officials at the NLRB themselves conducted a comprehensive internal investigation of Baroulis' claims, and you know what they found? Absolutely nothing. Not one single shred of evidence to suggest any kind of data breach. No data was compromised, no access was granted, Doge wasn't even connected to the NLRB systems in the first place. Baroulis quite literally made up the story, then reported it to NPR, thinking that no one would have the ability to check. But guess what? We did. In fact, the official NLRB statement regarding all of this confirms that Doge never even had access to their internal data. That's right, this entire so-called leak was built on the faulty assumption that Doge had system access, which we know they never did. So the story collapses under the weight of its own incredible absurdity. And now, ladies and gentlemen, take a listen to what Elon Musk himself had to say about all of this.
I think they're getting desperate because, the reason we're seeing this extreme amount of hatred and violence is because we're actually succeeding in getting rid of corruption and waste. If we weren't succeeding in getting rid of corruption and waste, they wouldn't care. But we are succeeding. Without President Trump, this would be impossible. So I'd just like to say, it's only possible with this president.
Folks, there you have it. As Elon Musk himself just said, this is what desperation really looks like. In reality, the progressive left is absolutely terrified of what the Department of Government Efficiency is accomplishing. In just 4 months, the Doge has cut out over $155 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse from the federal government, and the people profiting off of that waste, the progressives, they're absolutely panicking. And so what do they do in response? They concoct fraudulent stories, run over to NPR, and try to launch a smear campaign based on lies. Because, like we mentioned earlier, there is no forensic data, no system logs, no evidence of any kind to support Baroulis' fantasy. There was no Russian infiltration, no data breach. The only thing that happened here was a leftist bureaucrat telling a lie that the media was all too eager to run with. And the funniest thing about this entire situation is that this whistleblower, Daniel Baroulis, made these false allegations under the incorrect assumption that Doge had access to NLRB's systems, which they didn't. So this was the most easily debunked progressive narrative of all time. But ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest about all of this. This isn't really about data. This is about sabotaging the America First agenda. This entire whistleblower narrative was really just a tool for the same progressive elites and entrenched Washington, D.C. bureaucrats who are desperate to stop President Trump and Elon Musk from restoring efficiency and integrity to our government. But you know what? They failed. Again. In truth, the Department of Government Efficiency's operations are fully authorized under federal law executive orders signed by President Trump. The department conducts audits, identifies redundancies, and saves the American taxpayer billions of dollars. Every bit of what they're doing is legal, transparent, and effective. And yet, despite these obvious truths, the the radical progressive left continues spinning baseless conspiracy theories, desperately trying to paint President Trump as some sort of Russian collaborator. And for those of you that have been paying attention, you recognize that this is coming out of the same tired progressive playbook that they've been using for nearly a decade. Russian collusion, impeachments, fake indictments, and now fake whistleblowers. The progressives never learn from their mistakes. It doesn't work. Really, here's what the progressives don't seem to understand. The American people are wide awake. We know exactly what's happening. We see right through their lies, and we support the work that President Trump and Elon Musk are doing to clean up the mess left behind by decades of incompetent progressive rot. The Department of Government Efficiency's mission is really very simple when you think about it. Streamline the government, eliminate waste, and put America first. That's all. And you know what? It's actually working as well. That's why the opposition is throwing everything they have at it, even if it means inventing fake Russian hacker stories out of thin air. Because this is what we know to be true. This entire whistleblower claim has already been absolutely discredited in less than a week. The NLRB confirmed there in fact was no data breach, the systems remain secure, and Barulis's whistleblower claims have been officially debunked. This entire scenario is just yet another chapter in the progressive left's unhinged crusade to stop President Trump and to derail the America First movement. But it won't work, because in the end, the truth always wins. And President Trump, he's not backing down. Neither is Elon Musk, and neither are we. And I'll tell you what, folks, the reason why the radical left has to resort to concocting lies and fake whistleblowers and inventing Russian collusion narratives out of thin air is because they know they have nothing. The truth isn't on their side, and neither are the American people. President Trump and the Department of Government Efficiency are busy at work every single day putting America first and advancing the interests of everyday Americans. Meanwhile, the radical progressive left, they're busy doing everything they can to tear this country apart. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we all voted for President Trump, because finally we are going to put America first. Now, folks, before we wrap up with today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually gone ahead and made a community Facebook page where I'll be posting additional news and updates as it relates to all of this. So, hey, if you guys use Facebook, check out the pinned comment down below and give that page a follow. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video. So please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please consider liking the video while you're down there if you liked the video, that is. Please also consider subscribing to the channel if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today. And of course, as always, stay safe.